All right, everybody, here we are again for another episode of the Nona Sportscast, and I am here with two young leaders that have started with us a long time ago, and now they have major roles here in the Nona Soccer Academy family, in the Nona Sports Club, and we want to talk about how important it is for you to develop a career. When you decide to develop a career outside of playing soccer, outside of coaching in soccer, and how these kids and these young leaders are growing in their fields and being the best of it. Here at Nona, we couldn't do without them, and I think it's an important area of the success of organization to hear about these two guys. So thank you very much for joining us. Alejandro, you're the man. Thank you so much. Dani, well, you guys are very, very special for us, and we're here to tell all these people out there how this your career is evolving and how things are going. So before we start, I'm going to start with Dani. I want Dani for you to introduce yourself and kind of explain what you do here at Nona, how long you've been with us, and so on and so forth.
Dani, I'm from Brazil. I've been in Nona here for about 6 years now. Obviously, I've known you for a long time. You coached me in high school, and that's kind of how we stayed in touch after. I think I was at UCF at the time, and I was doing some stuff with the Brazilian Student Association. I reached out to you for some volunteer opportunities, and then we just reconnected. And then ever since then, I've been part of Nona. Started as a rec coach and a full-time, then a couple competitive teams for a couple of years, and then eventually transitioned into a role at the office with the tournaments, and then most recently now part of the scheduling team and overall just planning and all of our events. It's been a crazy 6 years. I think I've done it all here, but I know I'm very happy, and I love what I do.
Perfect. And we're going to talk about a little bit more about the events, and we're going to talk about doing a little bit of everything till you get here. So, Ale, tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you end up here?
So how did I end up here? It was kind of by chance. I started with Nona again, same thing as him, about like 6 years ago. For me, it was a little bit by chance. I remember I sent an email to the registration email at the time on your website, just saying, hey, do you guys have any teams to coach? I was missing a little bit of soccer in my life. And you guys answered within like an hour, I think, saying, yeah, just come out to the fields and we'll go from there. So I remember I went out to the fields. You guys threw me in with the 4-year-olds. It was a crazy day. But at the end of it, I actually loved what the practice was and getting all the kids engaged and everything. So I remember I stayed part-time just coaching 2 teams for a while, and I was juggling another job and college. And then I remember we spoke and said, hey, I don't want to do 3 things. I would like to focus on just Nona and school. Can we do anything? And that's when I started kind of as like what we call full-time, but in reality back in the day it was more like part-time hours. So I did rec and then operations, helping Frodo. And from there, I started to get more and more time as I was finishing school. I know with some careers it's a little bit different, but we'll get into that. I started getting a little bit more and more time, so we started doing more full-time stuff and ended up doing just running the operation pretty much with Frodo. And I had about a year pause with Nona. I went to go work for FC Dallas, and here I am now. Again, when I came back, I was doing operations, and most recently now I'm taking care of all the sponsorships and community engagement.
There's one thing that I always tell people when they start working with us, and I think this is the main theme of this conversation that we're going to have today, is that everybody thinks of soccer and everybody thinks of playing the game, right? And then once you stop playing the game, the first thing you think about is coaching. But then if those 2 things doesn't work, what else, right? And then I love working with young leaders like yourselves because, and with the vision that I had in the beginning, it was easy enough to say, like, there's so much talent working in the soccer industry but not everybody's going to be playing, not everybody's going to be coached. So the first question I always ask the people that works with us, it's, what do you want to do? Because if you want to play, I'll be brutally honest with you. It's at a certain age, there's not much we can do it anymore. And then if you want to coach, get ready to be undervalued and expect the performance in this that not as much as Nona we expect, but more from the parents and from the kids. But then there's a whole other spectrum of big things that can happen. So I think you guys were my first project that is working. So I start with Danny. And what's your career then? What did you go to school for? And how was the first couple of years or maybe months that you worked in your field?
So, like I said, I went to UCF. I think all three of us are UCF alumni, so go Knights. But I went to UCF for industrial engineering. I think I knew pretty young that engineering was something that at the very least I would be like okay with studying and getting to know more. I thought it was something I maybe had a vocation for. You see that early, like sciences and stuff always kind of made more sense to me than more like abstract stuff. So I went to school for engineering. Funny enough, I decided on my engineering orientation that it would be industrial engineering. I wasn't sure which field I was gonna go into, and then I kind of rotate through the rooms, and eventually you find all the types, and you hear and you see the classes, and looking at it, I thought, okay, this is something that kind of touches on everything that I like, So I did that, and I was very happy doing it. I liked what I studied. I liked going to school, and I liked the overall idea of what I could do with that degree. But the most interesting thing to me was that I could kind of do whatever. Industrial engineering exists everywhere. It exists in hospitals. It's a huge business nowadays, a huge industry for industrial engineers in hospital. In aviation, at the airports, or something I was always very interested. Obviously, sports, always in the back of my mind. And then also manufacturing becomes the most common route that you can take. And that's the one that I did earlier in my career. I took an internship at a millwork factory, doors, windows, and trim up in Sanford. And I was an intern there for 2 years, and I liked it. I liked what I did on my day-to-day. It made sense. It was stuff that I was learning. It was stuff that I was good at. At least I felt like I did a pretty good job while I was there. And then, soon enough, after I graduated, they offered me a full-time position. Alongside that, I've been a coach at Nona and a full-time, and I've been part of the team for, throughout that process. So I was at some point working 2 jobs and school and trying to juggle everything like Ale mentioned. I think at just some point I realized that, the hours in the morning were paying for the hours at night, sort of, in my head, So at the same way that I would spend my days maybe looking at the tournament schedule and like thinking of what I was going to do with my competitive teams and what the travel that weekend was going to be like and all that stuff, I was also not spending time at my job being there and learning and growing. And I think at some point it just felt stagnant for both of us, for me and for them. And I think that's when we had that conversation and I told you, hey, I've come to a point in my life where I'm, working 13 hours a day between 2 jobs, and then one is giving me half of what I need, the other one's giving me the other half. Is like, can we find something in between?
And then you decided to come here and take all my money. That's what happened.
I think I helped bring in some too. At least I
you decided to come here and do nothing, taking all my money as a full-time employee. I got it. Okay.
I wanted to, but the conversation was, I want to ask you, hey, is there anything that I can do that we can get to this? And obviously, it was a compromise on both of our parts. I'm sure that you made an investment in me that maybe you wouldn't have done at that point for what my resume was and my skills were for my age, or even altogether, other than the fact that we had a personal relationship already. And obviously, I made my quote-unquote sacrifices to make it work, and I think that years later, looking back, it's probably the best decision that I've made professionally, not even taking under consideration what my personal life is and was and how important that became for me. But in general, I think I'm happy to say that now I feel like I'm at a point where, I don't have any stress of wondering, like, what's my next step in life. It'll come, and it's going to be part of it, but I don't have that pressure anymore of, like, what about this, what about that, where I felt like I had that at that time in my life, both at work and I know, like, hey, how long can I keep just coaching or just doing this, and what am I going to do here in 5 years, right? I think that I found a spot in the middle, like I said, and that's to your credit and to your confidence in me at that point to say, okay, I'll quote unquote find a job for you at that point. At least I feel like that's how that went, so that I can keep you. And then, I think everything fell in place where now I actually do something that, it's not just the job that you found for me. But that's kind of how that whole thing came together. As far as engineering, I feel like I do it every day still. It may not be to the letter or to the T of everything that I study, but I definitely think that I'm better at my job than I would have been had that not been what I did in school.
Yeah, I think with Ale it was completely different. I remember when he sent that email to Chris. Chris was answering all of the inquiries, and Chris told me that day, it's like, Fabio, I got this extremely professional email from this young kid from Lake Nona High School, and I think you should meet him. And then Ale came to the field, and that first conversation was, what do you want to do? She's like, I want to work in a professional team. Yeah. And I was like, we're not a professional team, but it's like, I know, but I want to learn and I want to do it. And so what was your background, Ale? How did you end up with that dream, and what brought you all the way over here?
So mine is a little bit more, I guess, chaotic. Danny's the goody two shoes of the group. But I just remember in high school playing high school soccer, and then when I finished high school, I was in that group of kids that didn't really know what they wanted to do. I was always good in school. I was in AP classes, doing enrollment, stuff like that, but I never liked it. So I looked at a bunch of different options. I got an offer to go play at Weber International University. We went down, we toured. Price-wise, it was something that we could probably afford. I just didn't want my parents to pay for that at the moment. I didn't think it was quote-unquote worth it for me personally. So then after that, I remember I was talking to a friend, and he was like, hey, why don't you enlist for the Army? And I was like, I've always liked war movies. I did the whole process, and I really respect what they do. But again, I was at that point where I just didn't know. And then randomly I got an email from Valencia saying that I guess I had started an application before, again, in the chaos of not knowing what I was going to do, and say, hey, your grades are very good and your financial aid can cover a lot. Why don't you want to finish? This is when the Lake Nona campus had just opened, probably a year before, so I'm assuming they wanted to get kids in and stuff like that. So I finished the application, and through my financial aid and academic scholarship, I pretty much paid nothing. So I just ended up doing that, and the first semester I remember I didn't do so well grade-wise, just because, again, it was whatever, let me just do it to do it. And then after that, I remember I had an elective that I chose, and it was business development that I just fell in love with. And then from then on there, after you finish your first few semesters that you take the common courses, and then it specifies on more what you like to do. I remember, again, I just randomly fell in love with school. So I did Valencia, I did my 2 years at Valencia, I did my AA, and then from there I transferred to UCF. Because I had got good grades and financial aid and grants and stuff like that, I didn't pay anything in UCF either. So that's when it kind of started to, I guess, gain some shape rather than, I don't know what I'm going to do, let me do that or the other. So I finished UCF, and probably my sophomore year at UCF is when I sent that email to you guys. And it was more so, my dream since I was little was obviously, like everyone's dream, was to play professional soccer. I was never the best. I was more the class clown. But I really missed the soccer environment, right? Talking to soccer people, hanging out and stuff like that. So I said, maybe I've never coached before, but let's try it. Because, for example, when I played, I remember one of the biggest influences for who I am today was my soccer coach. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I sent the email, and you guys replied, and I came out to the field. And again, I was stuck with the 4-year-olds. And the parents loved me. I love what I did at the moment in that practice, and then we kind of just started from there. So that was probably sophomore year in at UCF. And then from there, I started again. I was doing 2 jobs and school, and then we started talking. It's like, hey, is there anything I could do? And then you brought me into the office. I started helping Frodo with the operation side of it. I think I was successful with that. And And then slowly I started cutting out my second job a little bit more and putting in more into Nona. And then at the end of it, I was just full-time at Nona and school. And
then you also decided to take all my money as a full-time job and do nothing here.
And that's why everyone works here.
Why would we work anywhere else, right?
But yeah, so
you see, Edgar, that's what's coming.
And now I'm out the person.
Yes, we'll talk about that too.
that was kind of my trajectory as Nona, and then at Nona, and then I graduated, and then from UCF, and then I was 100% in the operations side of Nona. Very successful years. I think a lot of it is to what you're saying, like people don't see the other side of, let's say, talk about youth sports in specific, because straight out of college at 21, 22, you're not going to find a job that you're pretty much, if not the person in charge, there's maybe one or two people in charge of a program of almost 1,000 kids, and just number-wise, well over 40, let's say, part-time employees. You're not going to find that. And that's, I think, what, to your point, is the side that people don't really see. A lot of people just think it's like, oh, it's soccer. It's like they're having fun. Yeah, we're having fun, but at the same time, you're never going to find a job unless you have a connection, unless your dad knows someone, your parents know someone, that you graduate and you're in charge of 1,000 kids and 45 employees. So that's kind of what made me fall in love with what I did, is just the let's say the good pressure or the good stress, and just knowing that you're doing something more than just clocking in and clocking out.
It's I don't want to take all the credit, because you guys, I can tell how much you guys look up to me, and I know that's a big responsibility on my end. And yes, I invested in you. You started young, and then I gave you more power than you would have in another job.
Yeah. Probably than you should at the moment.
Exactly.
But that's fine, because at the end of the day, here for us, the way I look at it is like, what's the worst that can happen, right? We are a youth soccer club. What's the worst that can happen? An injury, yes. I have to cancel practice because of the rain.
Yeah.
Or that was some miscommunication, I'm going to call it that, between parents on the sideline. So, like, people tend to look at this job as much more serious than what it is, but the responsibility towards customer service, towards the community, towards that. So I was able to look at this and say, I see this, at the time, you guys are not kids anymore, even though I'll forever call you my kids, but I said there's so much potential on these kids, and how focused you guys were, and everything that I could do to give you that opportunity. And then you helped me build this club. I tell you guys this all the time. I'm not easy on you, and you know that. I'll pull your ears every time I have to, because I see so much potential. And one thing I like about this we've had a lot of young leaders that started with us that is no longer with us. And there's a lot of them that are still here. But what I like about you guys is that understanding. As much as every now and then I have to say, this is not how life is going to treat you. Nobody's going to take care of you guys out there the way I do, because I like you as my own kids. But I think the most important thing is for you to understand that there's a process for everything. And now looking back 6 years, you guys have been through COVID. You guys have been through tournaments. We've been through crazy things, community relations. Yeah. We have been to sponsorship meetings, engineering meetings, right? If you're talking about building a facility. And so I am going to expose you guys to a lot. And then I remember 2 years ago when we started organizing the company, and I said, you know what, this company might take us somewhere, as a whole. I said that soccer was like this. I don't know if you guys remember, but I got the big clipboard, and I say, look, this is who we are. And we started crossing lines, and then every line crossed with each other. And I think the first thing that we had to do is to organize it. So once we organized it, we opened up and we say, okay, now there's our lanes, right? And what do you want to do? And I realized myself at that point, and I know I was able to give you guys a good insight on this, is that playing is just one lane out of this beautiful game. Coaching is another lane. And if you want to do that, it's fine. We can focus on your career to do that. But everything else, merchandise, you guys are experts in merchandise today. Sponsorships, placement, broadcasting, TV, community relations, politics. We had to meet with the mayor sometimes for us to be able to do a good Nona Cup. So I think people don't realize, and then the main reason why I want you guys to be on this conversation, it's because you're gonna tell all those kids that their parents are like, oh my God, I'm on the second or third team, or even the first team, that you're not gonna make it as a soccer player, and you can still have fun and you can still be successful in your job. So I think that's my main thing. But I also see a lot of that potential in you, and I think you guys are role models to what the majority of the kids, because 99% of the kids are not going to make it,
Yeah.
right?
I think to like your point, I think Ale and I have like two big similarities as far as like how we got here. I think the number one is that we kind of stopped playing at our life at whatever point, and then a couple years later realized, hey, like I just miss being there. It's not necessarily that I miss playing or that I wanted to coach. Mm-hmm. Neither of us necessarily wanted to do it as like a dream career type of thing. Of course, we wanted to be here, and we wanted to find something that could get us back into it. Connect back to the things that we love, which is soccer, which we played our whole life. And then the other one is that we also at some point made the decision that we're not going to play. Like Ale said, he had an opportunity to go to college to play. I had an opportunity to go to college to play, and for whatever reason, because it was too expensive, too far, not what we wanted, regardless. Or maybe we had an expectation that we would play a level, whatever, and then that's not what we came back. We chose to, hey, we're gonna pursue something different. But it didn't kill our dream to be around the sport for the rest of our lives. Like, I think that we have careers now that, we're just as involved, if not more involved, with the sport than we would have been if we were still playing. And a lot of people sometimes extend like that one side of the dream. Like I said, there's different aspects of it, right? Some people kind of focus on that one, and they'll keep extending and keep going, and they'll go to college and they'll finish, and they'll try to play this, they'll try to play that, and then time is going by and life is going on, and at some point you realize, hey, it's not going to work out. Then what do you do? I think that we made a decision at some point, and it was like, hey, we're not going to play. How else can we be around the sport? And I think that's a valuable opportunity for anybody out there that doesn't want to, lose that feeling of being in a team. I think that's huge in what we do. I love working at a club where I feel like we're on a team, like things that we do as a collective, like, so when any Nona team wins, I feel like I won the game. That involvement can be at any level. You don't have to be the player or the coach to be part of it.
I also think like in our industry too, or more specific to our company, and I think it's roughly, hopefully the same in other places. I think too, we in our industry, since you like you said, everything kind of overlaps. You have that potential of, like for example, in my case, I was always operations. I went to probably the highest level of operations you can speak because I worked at FC Dallas, and then when I came back, I was at operations. And then, like I said, a few months ago, I had the opportunity that we sat down again and we said, hey, there's this opportunity there. Do you want to take it? And I was like, I've never done sponsorship sales. I've never done the community relations other than the operation side of it, of actually going to do the community relations. I've never spoken to schools or like you said, the politics side of it, but let's give it a try. So I think in our industry too, and I think Dani can attest to it, you have that possibility of, because everything is so interconnected, you have that possibility of, I've done operations for the last 5 years of my life. Let me try something else. And for example, for me now, and of course it might be because it's brand new, but I love what I'm doing now much more than the operation side of it. I mean, at least I think I'm doing it good too. But I think that's the beauty of it, and the beauty of the game is it's not just coaches, it's not just players, it's not just team parents in our case. There's so many other things that you can do that a lot of time the people, like you said, are so distracted on playing, because of course you ask any kid from years 6 to 11, what do you want to do when you grow up? Oh, I want to be a professional soccer player. And that's fine. That's the beauty of the game. Like I said, I had that dream too. But I think some people take that and let it run through their heads until they're 22, 23, and then they're like, oh, what do I do now? But in our industry, we have all those possibilities that you can jump and see what you like to do.
It's funny that it brought a smile to my face when you started talking about the opportunities that you have now, being the community sponsors and community relations manager. Because I remember one time that we were talking and we were trying to bring you into the office to the more administrative stuff, and you were in operations, you're moving dirt, you're driving the trailer, you're pulling trailers, you're getting equipment, and you were in the office for about 3 or 4 months, and you says, Fabio, I don't feel that I'm useful to this company. And I said, Ale, you come from a hardworking family. You come from seeing your parents working on the field or in construction or whatever. Your mom was a teacher, and so you see that type of busy. Mm-hmm. But I see so much potential in you that I not to say that you can be successful in those areas, but you can be more on the strategic side. It's like, no, I can't, and I have to go back on the field. And I say, maybe because Ale is too young, he needs to go back on the field, and then one day he realized. So 3 years later, now you're telling me that you're and we had this conversation a couple of weeks ago. You're evolving as a professional, mm-hmm. and you're starting to see working more with your head, not necessarily with your body, and it's nice. I'm very proud to be able to. I had this conversation with you 5 years ago maybe, and then 3 years ago, and then last week, and then I see this evolvement for you guys. So going back to some crazy things that I've done with you guys, and I want to see that how you feel about this. I remember when we first did Nona Cup, and I came in right after the pandemic, and I came into the office and I said, we're doing a tournament. And I remember you guys looked at me like, what? We're like...
We didn't think it was going to happen. We are...
we
didn't think it was going to happen.
And I remember that we are just getting off. I remember this was September, I think. And we're just starting to come out of COVID. And then an opportunity for us to get Austin Tyndall in November. It was, and I said, it's perfect because November is our anniversary and we're going to do a tournament in November. And in my head, it was perfect. In my head, everything worked perfectly.
Meanwhile, we're like this.
Sure. We're gonna put a tournament.
I can't.
The weekend before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys thought that I was crazy. But then I hired a company that was used to doing tournaments, and then these guys came in and they charged me an arm and a leg. It's like 25% of the proceeds of the tournament, and you guys started challenging them because you guys. Like we like to say that you guys wear our jerseys, right? You guys sweat or sweat, blood, and tears. And then because I didn't know how to run a tournament. You guys didn't know how to run a tournament. But then when we saw the tournament operation, you guys start challenging. And I remember it was Terry, you, Chris, Lehi, Manu at the time. And we're looking at it like, I think we can do this.
Yeah.
And then I say, it's okay. Next year, we hired another company. A little bit cheaper, still a decent, successful tournament. And then when we're done with that second year, I looked at you guys as like, do you guys think we can do this? And it's like, yes, we can do this. We don't need anybody else. No, we don't need anybody else. No. And then I gave you, Dani, probably the craziest thing that I've ever done. This was like 3 years ago, and you were...
It was first Memorial Day, so it would have been 3 years
ago. You were 22?
I was 22, yeah.
22 at a time, and that's right. We started Memorial Day. It was a different tournament, and we did a trial. Tell us the truth now that you're a seasoned person running tournaments and doing all of this. We're going to beat 300 teams this year at Nona Cup, and it looks nice. But on the administrative side of the tournament, what did you think then, and how do you see the evolvement to what it is today? What is it for you? Is the third Nona Cup and fifth tournament? Okay. Yeah. How was it for you that day? It was like, holy crap. I'm giving because I always tell you this. You're just like me on a lot of things that you do when you're young. And I don't want to take your answer away, but I have to say this. At your age, back then and today, I'd never say no to challenges. You know, throw me whatever you get, and I'll prove it to you that I can do. That was me, and then sometimes that can bite you in the butt a little bit,
100%.
and I hold you accountable on that, but I relate to you so much, and I don't know if it's good or bad, but I know when you come in with all your crap, and I know that you're doing this. But I want to know from you, how did you really feel then with all of these guys? Because your peers were your biggest competitors, right?
Yeah, of course.
They were looking at you like,
And the biggest questions too, like they knew more than anybody else exactly what I had done or didn't do.
yes.
So
So tell us, how did you feel then, and how you feel now going into the biggest sports? Because besides the Tavistock golf tournament, right, that they do,
It's
that they
huge,
did
yeah.
it for, it's the biggest one in Lake Nona. The second biggest is Nona Cup. And now there's so many moving parts, 30 days from the event. How did you feel then, and how do you feel now?
I think that you nailed part of it. I think at that point in my life, I had done, and even in the sense because I was coming from like, I had an engineering job or whatever, but I didn't necessarily think of the challenge as something like, this is gonna be this huge thing I'm gonna do. I just thought of like, okay, I can do it. I know I can do it. I'm gonna figure it out. This is my mentality for pretty much everything. Sometimes right, sometimes wrong, but anytime that I approach something, I'm like, okay, I'm sure that I can find a way. Like if there's a way, I can find it. I might not be the quickest, I might not be the best the first time around, but I can get it done. And it's like you said, sometimes that can be the thing that bites me back. But at that point, that's how I approached it. But I don't think that I realized how big the challenge was at that point. Because realistically, Memorial Day has always been the little brother of the tournaments. It wasn't that big of an event. It was one weekend. It was a one location. No Fridays. We were done by halfway through on Sunday. I think there was a break on Saturday so we can watch the Champions League final. So there was a bunch of like...
You created that break.
I think there was a bunch of stuff at that point that, actually set me up to
and
really
we had about
go.
100 teams that day, right?
Just shy of it. And I think that kind of set me up to really feel what that meant for November, for Nona Cup. But coming in, I think it was like that. I wasn't going to shy away from the challenge. I knew that I could find a way, and it was definitely a learning curve. It was definitely a lot of stuff that I had to reach out to people and ask and research and just find a way. I know it wasn't the best in a lot of things. But then when the first Nona Cup comes around, then I really start to feel what the challenge is. I think that's the first tournament where I was like overnight at the office working on things because something happened and threw me off, or maybe I overlooked something. I don't think I ever expected to be as big on operations as it is, because from the outside you don't really think about it, right? When we're setting up banners and moving goals and stuff like that year one, we're not thinking about the schedule, we're not thinking about field usage, you're not thinking about foot traffic and parking. You're just kind of there. And then when you go to the other side, I start seeing all these challenges and stuff like that. And then we add a Monday, then we take a Monday off, so then I have to redo a schedule, and then we post the schedule, and then but this team pulls out. So there's so much that happens in conjunction the closer you get to it. And I don't think anything can prepare you for that. But 5 years, if I could go back to Dani taking on that first Memorial Day today, I think the most important takeaway I've had over the years is that, one, just continue to be confident that you can figure it out, because problems are going to arise. And Ale and Frodo, we've talked about this before, is that we've always, from the beginning of Nona, had the mentality of, we'll get it done. I don't know how, I don't know when. We've done so many things that we've never done before, and we got through it. So I like to think that we're resourceful. So just continue to lean on that. This would be my first advice to myself. Is like, and things are not going to work out. Things are going to come in, and you're not going to expect it. Don't panic. Just continue to trust that you can find a way. But I think the second thing is the support. Like, I put a lot of pressure, especially for Nona Cup. But I think like I said, we all do. We're pretty similar in that sense. We put a lot of pressure to make sure that everything goes out perfect. Perfect is never going to be the outcome of anything. But that's the pressure that we put on ourselves. And it's easy to, get lost in that. Whereas like, no, it's not good enough, and you start kind of nailing down one small thing. Sometimes take a second, a step away, and look at everything that's happening and like what people are experiencing, and see, okay, this is good. You can I think you can pressure yourself to be perfect, but you shouldn't diminish yourself if you don't get there, because you're not. And so you have to be understanding that the success is also just executing something that's a good experience for everybody. And then you can look at it. I think that those two things are my biggest takeaways, where Nona Cup comes around and we all want it to be perfect. We don't want to make mistakes, but I need to accept mistakes are going to happen. And it's not going to be the perfect way, but it can be great. And then we can be better for the next year.
And understanding that there's some things that are out of our control.
Exactly.
If you look at the feedback of Nona Cup was, I think a couple of years was the rain.
Yeah.
Can control the rain.
We can.
Referees, we can control the referees, and those are the two things. And I think we do a pretty good job. And so that was the decision of us bringing Nona Cup and the tournaments in house. It was a crazy decision from my end. I'll be honest with you. The first time I say I trust you guys, and I know that you guys are not going to make me look good, and I know you guys will do whatever it takes. But in an event that big, if something goes wrong in the middle of it, we'll never recover. So that was what I was worried about. But we made it and stuff. And I think going back to the operation side, Ale, this is going to be your 7th tournament, I think, with Nona. It's 5 Nona Cups and 3 Memorial Days, so 8th tournament that you do. Same thing, because once everybody's painting the fields, once everybody's moving the goals, hanging the banners, moving trailers, making sure all the coaches have their equipment and blah, 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 everything that we have to do operations-wise, you had to trust that your peer, who's also has never done it before, had their stuff together in there. But what was your perspective of Nona Cup to what it was when we first started to what it is today?
So I think just starting off, like let's say the first one when we hired the first 2 when we hired outside people to do it, I think for us, because operations get so repetitive so often, like you're doing the same thing year round, same thing, quote unquote, Nona Cup was great. Like, think about it. It was probably like 7 of us all in our very early 20s with golf carts.
Skipping school to be there.
With golf carts.
Hey, don't say that.
With golf carts, getting lunch paid for every day because we were working like 12 hours a day. Like at first, the first Nona Cup I remember was amazing. It was a blast. In the sense of it was 8, 9 guys, locker room talk, messing with one another. It was just a great experience. I remember even the dynamic we had was so good. We had people like, for example, Lehi that wasn't full time. He would leave work early and come just hang out with us and work with us, for example. So, but now as the years went by, I think we still have that same dynamic of it's fun because it's different than our normal operations. And then I know when he was doing the schedule, of course, everyone's gonna. I wouldn't say doubt, but
you don't know what's going to happen.
You don't know, right? And in the hindsight of it now, it's for the companies that were doing it, it was, in the hindsight of it, it was not that complicated, right? The biggest complication is the schedule, which he has pretty much mastered. But that 3rd year, I remember we're kind of like on edge, just to make sure like anything he needed outside of that so he could focus on that. And I think that's one of the other things too that we do pretty good around here is we always try to help each other no matter what it is. Even if it's something like he said, like I might have no idea how to do. If he asks me and he says, hey, I really need help with this because there's a mess up in the schedule, we'll say, don't worry about it. And then we're trying to figure out on our end and not give him that pressure. But I do think that 3rd Nona Cup that he took over, of course, everyone's going to be on their toes like, is there anything going to happen? But in the hindsight of it, what the organizers were doing the first 2 wasn't anything crazy. But obviously, once you're in when you're in the cloud, you don't really see that part of it. But now going into this year, it's been a little bit different since, again, I'm doing the sponsorship and community stuff. It's a little bit different prep. It's not a lot of hands-on. It's more making sure with Tavistock that the town center is okay to go for Nona Fest, making sure the sponsors are going to be there, the sponsors for the stage, and that's a little bit different this year. But again, when it comes to it, it's everyone's working and everyone's working together in that sense, all hands on deck. So that's kind of been the fluctuation for it. But I always love the event. It's something where it's a lot of work, You're going to work 60 hours that week, but it's different work, which makes it fun. It makes it a little bit of a break between what you do on a normal day basis.
I think the secret, looking from my shoes, right, is a self fulfillment.
Yeah.
That when we put together an event like this, I remember the first Nona Cup that we took over, and then we were giving out the medals, and Lehi put out a song that says we're a team, we're a family, and that was super cool because you had all the volunteers, you had some of the soccer moms that were working with us, and I have that picture, and that picture I think is emblematic for us because that showed that we can do anything. We sold hoodies, and we had people from Miami buying the Nona hoodies that we never thought that would happen, and hats, and so on and so forth. And then when the game started ending, and everybody's coming towards the stage where the things are, and then you have referees, like we're picking up referees, we pick up his scorecards, and we start bringing everything, and you see the size of the community working towards the event. It's probably one of the most fulfilling things that I've done here. And you say, yes, we can do anything that we set our minds to, and that was pretty exciting. So Nona Cup I think is the crown of the year, right? It's pretty much finishing the year with the success, and the way I like to tell that I tell you guys, and you guys hear that all the time. It's our day to invite all of our competitors, invite all of the soccer community to our home. And we need to be a good host to them, regardless of the score. I remember that the first year when I was presenting medals and people say, you were partying with your FKK, or you're partying with Orlando City South, or you're partying with Rush. I say, the kids are not my competitors. The kids need to have that experience at Nona Cup like they won the biggest tournament in town, right? So, and I had such a blast because I remember when Indy Atlantic beat us in the final on PKs, and my son was playing. And I told Kelly, who's a fierce competitor for the last couple of years, we kept going back and forth with the 2010 group. And I say, and Kelly came in here to take our trophy, and we gave her the trophy, and it was so those things, it's what makes a difference in Nona Cup. We welcome everybody, and we treat them as our guests, which is important. And I think that goes a little bit back to my hospitality days, and you guys bought in that. So I can't wait to get Nona Cup started again, and this year it seems to be a little bit more natural when it comes to it, but we cannot drop the ball. Yeah. It's like we cannot get comfortable because we're going to continue to grow and go from there. So I know that we've all had some challenges. For me, by far was COVID. COVID was the biggest challenge I've had. But looking back on your careers and the stuff that you do, what do you think, Dani, first, was your biggest challenge at Nona that you say, holy crap, now how we're going to get out of this? For you, what was it?
I would love to say Nona Cup because we're talking about it, but I think Nona Cup, because of the support that I have from everybody else, it's up there. Some of the things is up there, definitely, but I would definitely say Nona FC has been the thing that's, I feel like, demanded the most out of me the past couple of years, and in a good way, you know.
Since you started Nona, the Red Bull stocks went up.
Oh yeah,
by the way.
Number one. They're probably wondering what there's so much Red Bull in Orlando, but.
Hey Red Bull, if you guys want to sponsor this.
If you guys want to sponsor me, just
you can. We have Prime.
Oh, we got that now too. But in all seriousness, I think that Nona FC made me understand that I can do everything. Because, we talked about, I feel like whatever task is ahead of me, I'll find a way, I'm resourceful enough, and that mentality, which is great. But at some point, you need to realize that you can hug the world. And I think that was not just my biggest challenge, but probably one of my biggest lessons, is that you need to find help and you need to trust help. And with Nona FC, obviously, we had a conversation. At that point, I was doing something else at the office, something that, you felt wasn't the best or my strong suit at that point, and you wanted to give me something that maybe would align more with the events and that side of it, which I guess had been done to the right standard with Nona Cup and Memorial Day. But like I said, it was something in a time where during the summer for us, kind of everybody shuts down because the coaches are not here anymore. It's part time, so there's no club in the summer. There's no training. There's no tournaments. We kind of just
4 days a week.
Yeah. We go into summer camp, which is what demands essentially our efforts and time, and it makes sense because that's what operates during the summer. So it was kind of just like, hey, Danny, do you want to do it? Yeah, absolutely. And I'm thinking of the previous year where we were all doing it. Granted, year one, nobody expects anything, so we kind of just, as it was happening, we're all helping out. But now the second year, we know what to expect. And, the plan is the guy's going to be a summer camp, then Danny, you're going to take care of this. And I was like, okay, what do I have to do? Well, you have to, at the time, not necessarily, but help with registrations. You have to help with setting up the housing and what the players are going to eat, how they're going to go from point A to point B. If they're going to arrive at 1 in the morning at the airport and somebody needs to pick them up. And not even just the things that I didn't do, like the broadcasting of the games. You got to have a live stream set up, and that goes onto a specific website that they got to watch at. And then the coaches and the players need that because that's their highlights, that's their scouting, there's everything. And then game day, you need locker rooms, you need food, drinks for everybody, for the refs, and you need to send a travel sheet because everybody needs to know what color they use. So it's just a long list of things. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I don't have no idea how I'm going to do all of this. I honestly don't. I can hold the camera and commentate the game at the same time. I just right there.
And cater to the referee in the locker room and the coach.
I was done. So I came to and I said, can I hire some people? And I obviously being summer, it's only summer camp. So on a revenue stream point of the club, right, on a cash flow matter, it's tough to have a budget to operate, especially when you have something that sucks so much out of it, like Nona FC. Which is a great investment to our club. I absolutely think that it's vital to what we do today. But in the end of the day, it's a huge investment, right? It's a lot of cost. That's what I'm trying to say. So
it's fine.
So how can I get a team of people that are gonna do this with me and are gonna hear me tell them to do things? And I think that's when the internship program started, and something that you trusted me to do at that point, and I think we had 2 fantastic teams of interns the past 2 years. On the first year, we had 5 people between game day operations and social media, which actually come into a point where we didn't have a social media manager for that summer. So another thing that got added to the plate. But I had huge help that first year. With Gabe, Mateus, Lucas, Anna, everybody that helped. In that first year, it was so incredible.
And some of those guys started working with us as well.
So I think 3 of them at that point.
Some of these guys.
Yeah, for year 2 for sure. But I think from year 1, 3 of them continued with us. Eventually branching on to doing new things, which extremely happy for them. Glad to say that they're my friends now. But then from the second year crew with Brady, Vicente, Edgar, who's behind the camera right now, Gerardo. Everybody that was part of it. It was just it was incredible to have that group of people come in and intern with us during the summer. So that was my biggest challenge, but I'm happy to say that I think it's also been, or I hope to be, my biggest contribution to Nona. And I hope that this continues for years to come, whether I'm here or not, whether I'm still working with Nona FC or if I'm doing something else at the club. I think it opens the door for people like Ali and I, who didn't have the opportunity 5 years ago, and maybe had to be lucky Chris was in front of the computer when he sent an email, or lucky that you still have my number saved from high school when we reached out. But now it's a door for a bunch of people to come in and try it. You don't do it for Nona, do it for yourself. Like you want to be a sports broadcaster, you want to be a sports photographer, you want to be whatever it is that you want to be in the world of sports. Come here for 2.5 months and the craziness.
I just want to be the striker for Nona FC. I'm working on it. I still haven't lost faith on that.
We might have to come up with a different plan for that. But, he opens the door for people to come and at least try it. And maybe it's not going to work out and you're not going to come back second year. Maybe it's going to work out great and you're going to have a full-time job with us. I don't know. But if that can be a pivotal point in those people like life into finding out what it is that they want to do, and they can be part of our amazing organization, because I think we really are, and I think that we provide that feeling to people of inclusion and being part of something bigger. But to the challenge to come up with something like that wasn't just come volunteer for me because I can do everything and I need help. But like, come be part of Nona and experience what Nona really is. And I think that, especially after our second group this year, I think we really grasped it. I think the internship opportunity was really a way to take a peek at Nona, and I'm happy to have gone to that point after entering and saying, hey, I need help, right? So I could have gone a million ways, and I'm super happy that this was the way that I did it. And to everyone's help and making them feel included and helping me in the process. And, you know, I never hired anybody before. So for you to trust in me that I could filter people to the standard of the stuff that you like at the club, that's a huge challenge in itself. Definitely my biggest challenge. And I think anybody could say your biggest challenge usually once successful, it's the thing you're most proud of. I think that at Nona, even though Nona Cup is the like apex of my year, even bigger than Nona FC to what I look forward to, Nona FC, that process is what I'm most proud of and definitely my biggest challenge.
And what about you, Ale? Because besides of the epiphany that you decided to leave us for a year to go work for FC Dallas, it's like a club that is just legendary in MLS and stuff. And okay, take a year off. But what was the biggest challenge for you since you started here in Nona?
I think that kind of starts my biggest challenge in Nona. So for a lot of people, and maybe even for myself still, the MLS is the top of the top, right? That's, if you get into the MLS and work in the MLS, that's the top. And I think in the future, I'll probably work for an MLS club in the far future or whatever the case may be. But I think the biggest challenge for me was when I came back, that transition period, because it was like my dream was, again, to play professional. Then my dream was to work in professional sports. I got there, and now I'm working at Nona again. So I remember when I first got back, it was like, okay, so what's next? All right, what's next? So I think that was my biggest challenge was the transition period, and then now starting with something I've never done before and having what I think is success. I think that was specifically my biggest challenge, because I went from coming back to something that I could do with my eyes closed. Of course, it was more responsibility because we had grown, and then me internally saying, okay, like, what am I going to do next? And then taking over something that I've never done before, I think was my biggest challenge personally. I think to an outsider point of view, you don't really see that because I had such a big support. Like, Lehi helped me a lot in that transition because he was previously doing the position. I would ask you questions every single day. Chris, that a lot of people don't see, till this day still helps me with a lot of the community part of it, helping me organize, and still teaching me the community side of it. So I think my biggest challenge was that transition period of probably, like, I would say about like 6 months from where I come back and we're doing operation at a bigger scale, but still I could do it with my eyes closed. And then all of a sudden I finally get what I've wanted, which is something completely new. And then I'm like, oh, I got what I was asking for, so figure it out now. But again, from an outsider point of view, because I had that great support between you, Chris, and Lehi, you don't really see it. But internally, I think that was my biggest challenge, the transition and let's say the process of probably the last 6 months with Nona.
Yeah, I think for you it was that biggest. I can see you guys hit on the point on from the leader towards the two prodigies that we have. That's where I see was the biggest transition. However, I've seen this huge improvement when it comes to what do you do as a line worker, and once you get promoted, right, to leadership role, and I've seen this growth on you, Ale. That is crazy. And for you, Dani, I believe that looking at the organization, you are who opened the door for everybody else to want to step up. Because at that point, you guys were saying it was 9 guys in the locker room, and let's put this tournament together. And we're painting fields. Everybody's making fun of each other. We're running the paint over each other's feet, and that
Going
was
off the golf cart.
yeah. We're racing the golf carts and stuff. But I think once Danny got that responsibility, all right, bro. Now you can mess around as much as you want, but now it's your tournament, and you made it. Everybody, all your peers, is started looking like, huh, I can grow in this business. I can grow in this company, right? I can't help this company grow, but I can grow in this company. So I think if there's a legacy, and I know we don't say enough from both of you, but if a legacy that you're gonna live is that people like that started stepping up, people like Lehi started stepping up, and now we have Donovan, we have Edgar, we have everybody that's coming behind you. It was the first one that had an opportunity of the next role, right? And I remember when we organized the company, the first thing is like, who are your interns? Who are your part-times? Who are your full-times? Who are your managers? Who are your directors? And who's the C-level? And now we're hiring a C-level person where I'm coming off of it, which is, it's a true, real company now, you know? Now we're going to start giving benefits and paid vacation, and we're all good. But I think we don't say enough, but you guys, regardless of what happened in the future, at Nona or in your future career, I think you guys will always be remembered of the first ones. And I know when you look at Edgar, when you look at those younger kids that are coming behind you, you guys are the example. When I interview Edgar, I mention you guys multiple times because I think that you guys are the true example. And now you guys, even though you probably don't think so, but you guys are in a good salary base for your age. You guys have a lot of responsibility, and you guys have something that you never be able to compare to any other 25-year-old there. Your experience. You may not even have it on your resume, or you work for a youth soccer club as whatever title that I like to challenge you guys. What do you want to be called? On your next promotion, what do you want to be called? And we come up with these creative titles for you. But besides that, when people started having conversations like this, they see how mature you guys are. And like you said, 45 employees. I remember sometimes Alejandro coming to my office saying, oh my God, I can't take these coaches anymore. It's like, if you can't take people, you're not going to be able to work anywhere else, you know? And then the next day is like, oh my God, the coaches are so awesome.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's how it is, dealing with people. And I'm very proud to see my kids grow into these leadership roles and being exposed to so much. So I don't think we say enough, but you guys are legendary here in this organization because you guys are open the doors for the new young leaders that's coming behind you, and for other clubs too.
Yeah.
Because now positions like yours are being offered to other people, and you guys are. So sometimes we don't feel that way, but you guys are breaking ground with a lot of stuff that we've done at Nona, and I know that we have. We don't have to be proving to people that because of Nona the market changed on social media, because of Nona the market changed on this, because of Nona. I know that. That was part of my legacy, and people can say yes or no, but 20 years from now, they're going to be like, that bald guy in Lake Nona changed the market a little bit. And you guys are part of this, and I don't want you guys to forget that.
No, and then like you said, I think a lot of times because we're so into it, we're like this. And we don't look out. Like now clubs have social media accounts and dedicated social media people. Other clubs are finally selling sponsorships. Other clubs are starting to do their own tournaments. So whether we were a pioneer, that's up for debate, and I think in a lot of things we were. But you can tell the soccer market is changing where it's soccer and business. It's not just one or the other. So I think for the community of soccer in general, it's a good thing what's happening.
So I'm so glad you brought that in, Ale, because you did that perfect transition. You see, this is a good script guy. A perfect transition to my next point. It's like U.S. is becoming a soccer country. You know, I don't want to talk about the field stuff because that's not what we hear, and it's none of my business. In the next podcast, I'm going to interview one of the U.S. scouts, which will be a completely field conversation. I need to be ready for that. But for for this conversation here, we've had the Copa America. We've had I think we have the Women's World Cup, the Club World Cup next year, and the World Cup itself.
Mm-hmm.
We have Messi playing here. We have MLS blowing up. We have MLS Next blowing up. We have American players being sold to Europe. USL is blowing up with USL too. I want to get your perspective on what do you think soccer is going in the U.S. I don't want to talk about field because that's emotional, and we don't want to, as your mentor, as your teacher, and if you're working in this chair one day, that we're talking about soccer, you cannot get emotional on the game because in the game, it's the ball. I always say that one day the ball is gonna hit the post, it goes in, and we win, and you hide all of those mistakes and all the problems and everything, and one day the ball is going to hit the post and come off, and things that are not wrong are going to rise up, and the coach is going to get fired. So don't talk about your opinions on the field. Think of where soccer is going. What do you think? And I start with you, Ale. Where do you think this is going in terms of business, in terms of future for what we do here?
Mm-hmm. No, I think I agree with you 100%. I think soccer is growing exponentially. Again, I feel like people don't really see it because they're so focused on the on-field side of the ball. But if you look at it on the business side of it, soccer is growing at a rate that I don't know exact numbers, but it's growing at a rate that's never grown before. And again, with stuff like the World Cup coming, like the Club World Cup, Copa America just ended, you can just see. And from a business side of it, soccer brings in so much money, and the U.S. loves to be the best at everything. That eventually, soccer here is going to be one of the biggest sports, right? And I think so many people are because we do stuff like the NFL so well, because we do stuff like the MLB so well. People are starting to transition. Okay. Business wise, what are they doing there that we can replicate here or do better, right? Like I'll give an example. The marketing director at FC Dallas, he came from the Dallas Mavericks, right? He did such a great job with the Dallas Mavericks that he wanted a new challenge. He went to FC Dallas, and marketing wise and sponsorship wise, they're blowing up. Even something like Inter Miami, again, Messi helps. But when would you expect a MLS team to sign a contract for millions and millions and millions with Norwegian, for example? You don't see those type of things 10 years ago. But I think with Messi coming, with all these tournaments coming, if you think about it, the U.S. is the best place to host anything. The biggest concerts are here. The biggest events in general are here. Formula One is taking over the U.S. as well. So there's so many things happening in the U.S. and the U.S. loves to be the best at everything. That is just on the business side a recipe for success. And as again what you said, people on the soccer side have different opinions, and no one's gonna always come and say no, it's this. Everyone has their own opinion. But business wise, I think soccer in the U.S. has a recipe for success. Do I think it should be further ahead than it is right now? Maybe, but because what we have here, and how the U.S. looks at these types of things with sporting events and business wise, it's a recipe for success that I think in 10, 15 years, U.S. is going to be a powerhouse of soccer, not just on the field, which I think it will be eventually, but on the business side of it. It's not even going to be a comparison. You see all these people investing. David Beckham bought a team, and more. It's trending in the right direction.
Americans are buying a team overseas.
Yep.
Manchester United is owned by an American.
My team in Brazil is owned by an American.
Botafogo with John Textor.
Those
yes,
are
absolutely.
We have all these different types of examples that we can go on and on and on about. I think the problem is a lot of people just focus on the field part of it, which is very important because without the field there is no soccer. But if you eliminate the field side of it and you just look at the business side, there's no comparison. The soccer industry as a whole is just growing exponentially for the past few years, and it will be going more because of what we said, the Club World Cup next year and the World Cup the year after. So,
What do you think, Danny?
Well, I think Alice said pretty much everything that really is to be said about this. And to his point, it's perfect. It's like you're getting the best movie script and giving it to the best director. You have the most marketable sport, a global sport in soccer that's played and watched all over the world, and you're giving something that is successful in nature to the people that put up the best performances. You look at an NBA game, for example, which is another sport that I'm fond of. You go to a game and it's an experience not just for people that like basketball, it's an experience for everybody. For the people that like to go out, for people that are visiting the city, the country. It's a reason to go to places. And that's a sport that, despite being a huge sport as well, is undeniably not as big as soccer. So you're giving the people that can do that to anything, because every sport here is, from basketball to football, hockey, baseball, everything. It's extremely, well broadcasted and well consumed by everybody. Not just here, too, because overseas, people are consuming that more and more. There's NFL games in Brazil, in England. There's NBA games in Mexico, right? So not just here, but everywhere else. And you're giving them the thing that's proven to be the most watched and taken care and a consumed product in the world. And then you have probably the biggest player ever playing in their league. It's a great moment to be in the sports industry in this country, but on the soccer as well, I think, because it's just really going up.
Yeah.
And then I think that once the field stuff starts to line up more, like you mentioned Anali too, not something that I'm in a liberty to even give my opinion for, because that's not what I do, but once that begins to click, I think it's just going to go up and up. So even though it's booming, I think it hasn't even reached the biggest exponential growth yet.
I think it's still a baby.
Exactly.
It's a
hasn't gone through puberty yet.
Yeah,
Hasn't
it's a promising baby, and I'm excited to be part of it. So, guys, we are looking at Nona, what it is today, right? And kind of organizing and looking at 8 years now that we turn 8 on Friday, and all of this everything that we do, and looking back, sometimes I take a step back because I need to see the not the size, but the impact that we've made over the last 8 years, right? So we're an organization that have the rec program, the after school program in multiple schools. We do a lot of stuff for the community. We just started to help a club in the projects in Brazil through the Nona Cares Foundation. We have Nona FC that we didn't even have time, but when you were explaining about your role and your challenges, I think you hit Nona FC in the head. Then we have the competitive program. Then we have the broadcasting that we're starting now. Then we have this podcast. We have Nona Cup. We have Nona Memorial Day. We have all the connections with Lake Nona, with the city of Orlando, with the city in Kissimmee, and you start putting all of this puzzle together. And I want you to kind of tell us, based on everything that we do, how do you think within Nona or in your next step on your career, how do you think that all of this helps you? Because now you're sending a message to all the young guys that are still at UCF now, that are coming up to work and start all over again what you've done. I want you to looking back at all of this, all of the experiences that you have, and if you want to send a message to these guys. And before you go there, I remember last week when we were recording the first episode of the thing, and I think Edgar had 6 of his peers from UCF here in the studio, and Alejandro came in, and I'm looking at that group coming in, the Fobs, right? The fresh out of the boat from UCF. And then you see Alejandro all dressed up as an executive of the club. And me as a proud father of all, I'm looking at, holy crap, Alejandro was these guys only yesterday. And now they're looking up to Ale, and I think that is something that to me, it's priceless. And if there's any legacy that I'm leaving behind, is that. I remember when Dani came in, and these guys came in to interview with Dani, and I'm like, is Dani interviewing kids? Whatever, man. Who is this kid? Is interviewing another kid? And then these guys were so focused and so willing to answer the questions. They're looking up to you guys. And I thought it was beautiful. But I want you guys to see all of this that we throw in there, because sometimes we don't see the magnitude of what we do. And send the messages to these youngsters, right? This kid, you can call them kids.
Don't
So
Not that old.
Not that old.
so if you, oh, what are you trying to say? I'm that old to call you
We're
kid?
getting to the point where before everyone tries to like act like they're older and say they're older, and now it's the other way around.
Yeah, we're trying to be cool. So tell us what message that you guys want to send, and I'll start from Alejandro, UCF student, Lake Nona High School student, who played soccer in high school, and one time decided not to play soccer anymore, but still wanted to work in the industry. And now it's a pretty successful image in our area here. What message do you leave to these new guys coming up and start working?
I think, to sum it up, and it might sound very simple, but a few things is definitely start early, start when you can. Again, from my personal experience, I started early in the sense where I got into the industry as a part-time coach very early, so I had that, not really that road paved, because there was no road paved. I think, like you said, we paved the road together, but start early and find something that you genuinely like to do. I think nowadays with social media, with how the world moves, a lot of people tend to focus on where's the money, where's the money, where's the money. I need to do this because of the money. And at the end of the day, they'll be 45 and yeah, I clock in and clock out, right? I think starting early and finding something, I think it all has kind of to do with one another. Starting early in what you love to do will benefit you very much so in the future, and also starting early to find out what you love to do will benefit you immensely. Because if you start early and you find something you love to do, once you graduate college, the sky's the limit, right? You don't want to start looking at what you want to do when you're 24, 25, which is okay. Everyone has their own path, and there's no recipe for life. You learn as you go. But if you can get that head start on finding what you love to do or doing what you want to do, I think it will boost you 10 years on that journey, which is called life. So that's my thing. Just starting early and finding what you love to do and going from there.
How old are you again? 50? That's a good message.
3 grandkids already.
Yeah.
Well, you always say he's an old soul, right? So
old soul.
that was a perfect. So what about you, Dani? What message do you leave to these youngsters coming behind you guys?
I would leave Ali's message first because I think it's very pertinent. But from me, I think it's invest in yourself, and not just financially, like you mentioned, but invest on being in a place that it's gonna want you to grow as much as you want to grow. I think the biggest paycheck I got in my entire life was opportunity to do things I wouldn't have otherwise. Whether, definitely it's happened here over and over again. And I think that in other things I've done in life, I've been blessed to be met with people that want to give me opportunity. But that is, the money will come. It will come. And the success will come. And the job titles will come. And the power will come.
If they don't come, we'll just create some.
If they don't come, just create some. I think there's a bunch of opportunities for you to be who you want to be. And I think that once you've realized what that is and what you love, and I think you should start right away, like Ali said, but invest in yourself. Take the time to, learn and grow into that thing. And then you'll be successful. And I think that that's the biggest thing that's happened in my life is that, like I said. But if I have any advice for anybody else is to just not get discouraged from whatever standard it is that people think where you should be in life, or where you should study, or what you should do, and what you should wear, where you should drive. Don't get sucked into that. Find what you love, pursue it, and then give everything you got for it, and then it will pay you back tenfold easily. But just I think we talked about like giving up on playing early. I want to be clear. Don't give up on your dream. If that's your dream, go after it. But if your dream is soccer, for example, like mine was, playing just wasn't the right thing. I wasn't investing in myself at that point. I was doing things because maybe I thought that's what I had to do. I thought I had to go to college and play soccer because I played club and because I needed a scholarship. I didn't need soccer to get a scholarship. I didn't need soccer to work in soccer to play at a high level at least. So that's my biggest advice. Just pursue that, and then find a place that gives you that same energy back, and you'll be fine.
Wow. And I know we're running out of time, but I have to say, guys, this is probably one of the best conversations I've had on this since I had the idea to do this podcast, because it's my vision coming to fruition, I guess. And you guys are role models. You guys are paving the road, like you said. And there's a lot of people, everybody from the group that we're hiring at UCF as interns now, everybody should watch this podcast, because it's something that I'm very proud of, to see you guys here. And then hopefully one day when I'm really old, you guys will be running this or running other shows out there. And I want to thank you guys for everything that you do on a day-to-day basis. We don't say enough, because I think we develop a relationship of friends, relationship of father and son, and we tend to go through life without thanking and showing appreciation. So it seems like I made a difference in your life, but you guys have definitely made a difference in my life and in a lot of kids in this community, and I think more kids to come. So thank you so much, Ale. This was awesome. Appreciate it. Dani and Edgar, thank you so much. And I think you see what you're putting yourself against now, right? It's more power, more responsibility, because you have big shoes to fill. And I want to thank everybody for taking the time to watch this. It's important to me, if soccer is only half our story, for me to tell you the other side of the story, which is being built by these opportunities that we give people, that these projects that we do. And stay tuned. More cool conversations will come out, but you guys will have to watch this show, this episode, this one with these two prodigies that we have here at Nona. The future of leadership in youth club or professional club, it's here, and you guys cannot miss this. So thank you very much for staying with us for another episode. Thank you, Nona Media, for providing the space and with this amazing partnership, and all of our sponsors. Ali is kicking me under the table here. We have BioHome, Nemours, and a bunch of others that we're going to put here at the end. But I would like to thank everybody, and thank you for your time, boys.
Thanks for having us.
Very good.
Thank you.
And how we do in the meetings? 1, 2, 3.
Break.
Break.